Hello Internet. I have this 3080 Ti that came in for a fan replacement, front and back. Customer supplied the fans, do the pads and paste and whatnot. And then I run the tests, and it seemed like it was fine, at the very least on a quick test. Then I recently purchased Maximus X Hero Wi-Fi AC motherboard, and I wanted to test this GPU on that new motherboard, but I ran into a problem. It posted and it ran, but every time the load would apply, whether it's a memory test or a firmware, whatever it is, the PCI Express Gen 3 would roll back down to Gen 1. I tried BIOS flash, ditched the riser, different slot, just couldn't wrap my head around this. And the further I went into this, the worse it got. It got to a point where it won't even detect on this motherboard. It would still detect on the older motherboard. It would detect on the AMD platform, or the older AMD motherboard with an AMD CPU. It would also detect on the newer motherboard that I use for 5090s and 50 series GPUs, but it would not detect on this Maximus board for whatever reason. I couldn't figure this out why. Now, the only time it would detect on that Maximus board is if I run it through an X1 riser. So I thought to myself, there's probably an issue with the data lines. And I went measuring every single data line, every single capacitor, on the back and on the front, and everything checked out. Every single capacitor I checked for capacity checked out. Voltage drop after the capacitor, everything checks out. Looks beautiful. But for whatever reason, only on this motherboard, it wouldn't even detect. I had no idea why. But it would detect through an X1 riser. So I thought to myself, why won't I run it through the reversed riser? And this reversed riser had saved the day. What this riser is, it's basically taking the first data pair and it routes it to the very back. So that way, if the first data pair is damaged, which can sometimes happen, it's very rare, but it does happen, I can still detect the GPU by rerouting basically switching the data lines. So that way it'll detect. And it would not detect in the reversed riser. So that told me that the problem is specifically with the 16th data line. So what I ended up doing, since I already know that the voltage drop checks out at the front as well as on the back, and that the capacitors are reading the exact same capacity, well, not exact same, there's like a 5% plus minus whatever, but they're within specs. I just replaced the capacitor, and that was it. That fixed the thing. I'm so happy. It's like 1:30 in the morning. I'm finally done with this thing. I was almost about to just disable the 16th lane or try to reball the core in hopes of some kind of a micro crack may have been formed there, and it just got worse as I was, gently manipulating the board as I was replacing the fans and putting in the pads and whatnot. Because, it worked at first, but it turned out that the capacitors got bad, and they just got bad to a point where they wouldn't even function. So I'm guessing the ESR went bad or something. I don't even know exactly. I've never seen a problem like this before, and I'm just happy to share it with all of you guys out there who are having a similar issue with whatever graphic card there was. And so hopefully this is educating. Hopefully this will help you narrow down the problem. If you have a GPU that just refuses to be detected in X16, you can try X8 slot on your motherboard if you have one, or run it through a riser in X1, and that's basically how you can eliminate the faulty data lines wherever it may be, and take it from there. This is the motherboard that I just got. I'll show you. It reads like Maximus Decimus Wi-Fi Hero X Wi-Fi AC. Yeah. So this is like an older motherboard, cheap CPU, DDR4, but it works. I just wanted to see the post codes because I do not have a post code on my older motherboard, but this one has, and it's actually easier to flash back the BIOS on this one than on the old one. Though there are reasons why I kept the old motherboard, because it's just compatible across many generations of GPUs when it comes to testing for memory, with the exception of 50 series, which is the reason why I ended up buying a newer motherboard for testing with the PCI Express 5.0 for testing 50 series GPUs. But for everything else before that, my old Z170 Gaming Pro from Asus is the motherboard to get. As a matter of fact, I have two of them just in case if I ever need a backup. I've had three. I already threw away one the other day, so I'm down to two. So I thought to myself, I think the limitation with the, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the limitation of the software compatibility with mods and whatnot, up to 40 series GPUs, including 40 series. I think it's not exactly the CPU that's the limiting factor. It's the, I forgot what it is. What's the word? I'm looking, North Bridge, South Bridge, the PCH or whatever. Chipset, yeah. So it's a chipset compatibility problem. So you cannot run everything on a newer chipset. So, and with the chipset limitations, you're limited to the types of motherboard that you can get, the CPU that you can get, you know, the memory, and all sorts of limitations. So that Z170 Gaming Pro, I do not know exactly which chipset it has, but it has that one chipset that seems to be compatible with a lot of the graphics cards from like super old ones, like older, or like 1060, 1050, GTX 700 series, GTX 600 series, whatever. All of those were compatible with that particular motherboard. Now, this Maximus here may not be so lucky, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some tests. So, but we'll see. The CPU here is definitely an upgrade. The memory is the same, and everything is going to be exactly the same. So I do not expect to see any kind of different performances here. So again, performance in my case is not the goal here. I am testing strictly for functionality, isolating the power load, the memory testing, you know, all these things. And here we are, we're running at full 16 3.0, just exactly like it should. So yeah, the motherboard just does not support 4.0. It's an older motherboard, like I said. And I'm going to go ahead and finish up with a test. Give the customer good news that I finally cracked it down, though I almost sent this one home as is, thinking that I had some issues with the motherboard. I almost sent this motherboard back where it came from. I got so frustrated, spent hours and hours trying to figure this out. And it turns out it was just some stupid capacitors. And that's great news because the GPU worked on my older motherboard, but did not even detect on the newer one, which is good. Because otherwise, I would have let this one slide, not even knowing that the GPU is faulty. And so the customer could end up having issues, and it's a win. Either way, again, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.